Hello everyone. Sejr here. Thank you so much for joining me for my July 2022 Spellbinders card kits. This is the 10 cards I make from this kit. I actually forgot about this kit. It was sitting there, but I had so much stuff piled on top of it, and I was cleaning up and I totally forgot about it. So I did quickly make them so that because I also have my August kit just came in yesterday. So these are the 10 cards that I quickly put together. So hopefully you enjoy them. I did have a lot of fun creating them. It was a little bit challenging because I find fairies and mermaids and unicorns a little hard to work with just because they're just not my style. I think they're beautiful and they're awesome, but it's just more of a challenge than some other themes. But I'm actually very happy. And this is card number 1. It's very quick. I'm kind of just playing around with the pattern paper. This kit actually had a lot of design pattern papers with images and stuff. So for a couple of them, I utilized that and it made for quick cards. In this case, there was that unicorn on the corner, on the bottom there. And so I just took some ephemera that has a sentiment that says, say all your wishes come true. Or may all your wishes come true. And then I added some stars, which were from a die in last year's card kit. I believe it was October's or something. So that was card number 1. Very, very quick. Let's move on to card number 2. I'm playing around with some scraps here. And it was probably from one of the other cards that I haven't shown yet. And what I'm doing, just adding some gold trim to it so that I can create a nice layering effect. For these cards, I actually laid out all 10 bases and I just went from card to card, playing around with the papers, moving things around. So that's why I ended up with these pieces in card number 2, even though it's actually a different card that used that pattern paper, and you'll see that later on. So just so you understand how this worked, and how these pieces ended up. I don't just randomly cut pieces like that. Usually when I'm using strips and corners and stuff, it's because I've trimmed some paper for another card and I don't want to waste it. So that's how it works. I don't always use my scraps, but if I can, I will try to create some fun designs, and kind of like this. What I did was I took the triangles and I moved them about maybe 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. For the focal points, I did use a tag in the background. It has this nice pink color. And then I propped up that seahorse in a purple circle to tie all the purple together with the sentiment, believe in your dreams. And I did add some starfish, which are using the dies in the card kit, and then finishing it off with these absolutely beautiful bling little pearls with gold accents. They're just absolutely beautiful, and they come in many colors. Unfortunately, I didn't actually use them for many of the cards. I just didn't end up using them, but they are very beautiful. For card number 3, this is fun. I really like this one. This is very simple. It's going to go by really fast. So let me get myself situated here. And okay, so I really, really like these fairies. Like I said earlier, I find it hard to work with them. But these really drew me, these fairies with just one color. And so I love how the hair is blowing, and I just want to make it just pop. So I put her on the background with very similar colored, with very similar color. And I'm using the sentiment birthday wishes. And then I'm taking these stars, which I cut out of gold cardstock. And this is the die that I mentioned earlier, it's from last year. And I just cut some stars out and I made a trail following her feet. And that's it. That was the card. And you'll see it better at the end. But I really like that simple card, and I really love these fairies. And once again, I'm going to use it for this card as well. This card is interesting. I love this paper. It's almost like Bristol board, and it's a fluorescent color, and it's really bold. And I just could not help myself but use it. And so this is different. And you'll kind of see what I'm going with. It's a little bit abstract. But what I have is I have a fairy there holding a little lantern. And because this cardstock is so dark, it's like a really dark fluorescent color, the light of the lantern is actually going to be casting that ray of light, which is making it a lighter shade of pink. So just imagine like a flashlight being turned on. That's what my imagination is using. To give it some effect, I'm going to add some foam squares behind the fairy. And that's going to prop her up a bit so that there's a little bit of dimension there. Kind of looks like she's popping out of the page, shining this light across the scene. Sometimes my imagination really takes me into a different direction that I normally would never do. And that's the time when I really like to try it out and see if I can pull it off, because those are always the cards that make me, I enjoy a lot, especially when it comes out and I enjoy it. What I've done is I've taken the sentiment of Fairy Happy Birthday, which ties in with the fairy, and I've added it to some black cardstock, kind of giving a shadow, quote unquote, shadow effect, just for some fun. And then, of course, I will add some black stars so that there's not just one black thing. Otherwise, it'd kind of stand out a little too much. And I'll just place those stars just around, focusing around the light pink, and then I'll glue this down with some Simon Says Crafty Tacky glue, which is my favorite glue to use for small embellishments. It's a thicker glue, and it doesn't move around and too much, not too runny. Okay, so card number 5 and card number 6 are actually very similar. Because it's actually one pattern paper. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to ink everything in some purple. I think it's wilted violet, potentially distressed inks. I'm going to do everything in purple just to, very similar to when you use vintage photo, just to create some separation with all the pieces. But this pattern paper with the unicorn on the top left, it is a 6x6 sheet that has a unicorn on one side and a fairy on the other corner, on the bottom. So what I did was I trimmed that down and I've created 2 cards out of it. So this is the first one, and that's why it's on an angle like that. So to make it so that I have something on the other side, I found a matching pattern paper, mainly just the color is matching. And I chose that for the other side. And then card 6 will be the reverse, and you'll see that. I also take a piece of gold cardstock and just make a strip to go right across so that I have a border between the pattern papers. It's a transition. I like doing this. It helps a lot when you don't have an abrupt change. Then I'm just adding some ephemera, and I'm going to add the flowers in the corner, and I'm going to prop up the sentiment, have an enchanted birthday, because we have a unicorn. So let's assume it's enchanted. And then I'll just place that right on top, kind of covering some of the flowers. And then to finish off, I'll add some of these gold stars. And once again, it is the stars that came from a kit from last year. It was one of the ones with the celestial imagery and such. I could have used starfish as my stars, but I didn't want to do that since there was no sea-themed imagery on this one. So this is card number 6, and as you can see, it's the opposite. So I'm doing the exact same thing. Off camera, I did all the purple highlighting because there's no point showing that twice. And I'm just doing the very similar, but it's just reversed. So I'm taking that strip of cardstock, and that strip is probably about a 1/4 inch. I didn't measure it. I just cut it, and I'm just moving it up so the edge are touching, so that when I trim it, it looks like it's across the whole card. And I did measure it enough so that when I put this layer with the print or the fairy on it, it's going to cover and line up so that now you have that 3 layers. And the reason I did the gold is just because the sentiment has gold and some of the embellishments have gold that I put on it. So you just want to tie in. If there was no other gold on the card, I would never do that. I would have chosen the light purple that came in this kit. There's a light purple cardstock. So that's what I would have used if there was no gold. The sentiment I'm using is "You are made of magic." I thought this was a very good choice as well because of a fairy. And if I were to know a fairy, I'm sure they would be magical. And then to continue with the sentiments, I did say so much fun. I like adding these little sentiments. They don't mean anything. It's just fun. Just to continue with the wording. I just like it. And of course, it's these fun little pieces that has like a jagged edge. So it's almost like a ticket almost. It's kind of fun. To finish it off, I'm just going to add some of these stars that come from the chipboard. I will glue them down. Always, always, always glue down the chipboard because they will pop off. Guaranteed. 95% guaranteed that it'll pop off. So just do it. It'll save you. And there we go. Okay, card number, I love card number 7. This is a silhouette card, as you can see, with all the black pieces. And I'm going to make a nice, beautiful sea image. The scales, I think I did backwards. I think I wanted the scales downwards now that I think about it. It doesn't matter. It's just a background, but I think I would have done the scales facing down. So all these pieces have been cut out from black cardstock using the dies that come in the kit. And there's some fish and a seahorse, and then of course the mermaid and seaweed. I've glued all the seaweed down at the bottom, and I'm just going to trim off the excess. What I tried to do was just have them, because it's only one shape, I just kind of move them around, overlapping in some places, or put them on an angle just to make it look like it's a little different. But it is all the same piece. I did cut that to probably, it's about 1/8 of an inch cut off. I can't think of the measurements off the top of my head. Inches are a little bit harder for me to calculate in my head. For the sentiment, I have it in 3 layers. So I cut a circle using a die that was very similar to that pink one, and just a size bigger. And then I glued the pink one to the gold to give it a little bit of trim. And then I propped up the sentiment, and it says, "May all your wishes come true." I know that all this gold is kind of hard to see with my lights shining on it. So that's why I'm making sure I read them out to you because they are a little difficult sometimes, especially when the card's moving around. I am going to glue my mermaid, and I'm going to make sure she's touching it. She has a hand kind of open. I want to make sure she's touching it. Just kind of giving it that majestic kind of flow to it. Just kind of feels like more magical to it. And then I'm going to add my seahorse and then my fish, and I'll put the fish together. Usually fish, if I do these, I like to keep them a little bit close together, kind of like a school. It looks right when you do that. I could have moved them around, but I like that. And there we go. Very, 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 I love that one. Very nice. Once again, at the very end, you'll see all the cards. Okay, this one's kind of fun too. This one's a very simple card. I'm not using any mat. I'm going to put this right onto the card base. And I'm just playing with the 3 main elements of this kit, and that's the unicorns, the fairies, and the mermaids. And the reason for that is because the sentiment that I chose says, "Dances with fairies, rides a unicorn, swims with mermaids, chase your dreams." So I thought it'd be really fun to make a collage with these 3 elements. Now I was going to glue it flat to the card, but I decided to prop up the sentiment. So that's why I had some sticky tape there first, and then decided to add some foam tape to prop it up. And now to build the scene. So I'm going to have the sentiment in the center, and I have my bar across, because that's my grounder. That's what I'm going to be having things stationed on. When you have like images with people or creatures or animals, it's nice to have a ground to work off, so it doesn't look like they're floating. It actually makes a huge difference from a card. Give it a try, and you'll see what I mean. Just have them positioned and then remove the grounder, and you'll see how the floating is just a little different. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it's nice to have that grounder, and especially in this case, because I want this cluster. In this case, I forgot to put my unicorn, so I have to pick everything up. So that's what I'm doing there. But you'll see that my fairy is level. I'm not putting it above it. I'm not touching the bottom. I have it almost in the center, as if that green bar is like a carpet that's a little bit, you're kind of seeing on an angle, so it's not too wide. And she's in the center of it. And then, of course, the plant is there to separate the fairy and the unicorn. Otherwise, they would blend too much. So you kind of want that buffer in between when they're very similar colors. And then the mermaid, I'm going to have her resting on the grounder and propping her up so it creates more dimension. So she's going to be level with the sentiment, but her tail is going to be flat down. So we're getting all these different layers, and it's just creating this really neat effect, this really fun cluster of majestic creatures, and I just love it. It's so much fun. Just to tie in something else, I've added this little star. I think it's supposed to be a starfish, but I'm going to just make it a star and have it floating in the sky. And then, of course, I'm going to add some gold dots to this, just to tie in this gold that's in the sentiment and on the starfish. And I'll glue those down with some crafty tacky glue. You're going to enjoy the next two cards, especially the next one. Next one is bold. And I just chose some. I just love that pink color, and you'll see very soon, right now. Here we go. I just love that pink so much, and I really liked how it looked with the blue. It's just this really blinding, beautiful colors, and I had to use it. This is pretty much one of the second last. This is the second last card that I created because I just kept playing with it. Because I was determined to use these colors. So the only pattern paper I could use to get away with it was this green one. Unfortunately, these two colors don't work well with most of the pattern paper in this kit. At least I couldn't get it to work. If you do, let me know. Show me pictures. I'd love to see it. But I had a challenge. This is the only background pattern I could do. So I'm creating a underwater ground scene, and I'm imagining it's just pretty much like bold coral, and it's just a blanket of it, and it's kind of in the distance so you can't see too much definition, and that's kind of what I'm going with. I probably would have inked the edges if I was thinking more clearly. Like if I was purposely knowing what I wanted to do, I probably would have inked it, because you see the two blue, the one in the front and the one in the back, kind of blend too much. I try to fix that by adding the seaweed in between, and it kind of helps, but definitely adding a little bit of ink would have really made a difference. But anyways, I just love these colors, and so I cut them out. I cut the seaweed out, the starfish, the shells, the scallops, I should say, and yeah, I just love it. And so, not to add too much color other than these, I decided for the rest of the elements I would just cut them in gold. So that's the seahorses, the fish, and that other shell. The sentiment is "You're amazing," and I think that's pretty fitting because I was amazed that I pulled off this card with these colors. And anyone who gets this card deserves to know they're amazing too. So I just love it. It's so much fun, and this is what I like about just have fun. It really doesn't matter. Just remember to play and let that child out. It doesn't matter in the end. It's as long as you're having fun and you're not stressing. And that's what I hope that you're all doing when you play with these cards. And I did finish off with some pink bubbles. These are the die cuts in the kit, and I don't like the placement. I was kind of rushing it. I wanted them to be bubbles coming from the animals, but also being strategically placed. And now that I look at it, it's kind of but I don't mind it. I like it. I love my vibrant retro card. Okay, so for the last one, I'm going to use more of the ephemera, and once again, I'm going to be kind of creating. It's like I had coral bed on my mind, but using flowers, and you'll see what I mean. when I get there. But what I did was, this is the last card, and usually with my last cards, I siphon through all the scraps and I grab the ones that I like the most. And these are the 3 that I love. And I love all the colors and I love how they work together. I just taped them down and tried to make them as best separate as best that I can so that they're equal. But I didn't measure it, so one could be wider than the other. And that's okay with me. I did have to add some glue because I did trim it off. I didn't know how I was going to place them, so it did end up that the tape was cut off, so I just had to glue it and make sure that it was all sealed. If you did not catch that. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to play around with adding these flowers, and I'm going to kind of imagine that it's a coral bed, but just a cluster of flowers. So I'm going to create in different levels. I use the foam tape from the kit, and I also use some foam tape that I got from Uline. It's just another company that has foam tape that I really, really enjoy, and it's just a little bit thinner, so I can get 2 levels. And then I'm just going to place them around, and I spent 10 minutes playing around, and then I start over. So that's why I cut through. I don't want you to sit here watching me play around for 10 minutes. It's really boring. So I cut it off. So just so you know, if you ever see it cut in the video and all of a sudden you see everything kind of piled in the right-hand corner neatly, it's usually because I played around with something and then I move everything back and start over, so I have a nice clean transition. Just so you know, that's what I've been doing. I did use another one of those green seaweed plants, and then I placed that behind because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my mermaid have it look at it. I kind of like in the distance, like she's looking in the distance, like if there's a cliff underwater, and that's what she's just she's not thinking too much. She's just enjoying. She's taking the moment, just being with herself and enjoying just the view and being present. So let's put it that way. I think that was a really sweet way of putting it, and that's what I really wanted to portray. I did add a little shell to the corner there just for some fun, like, oh, there's a there's a shell attached to the coral. I don't know, kind of gets hidden there, but that's okay. It's camouflage. I am going to prop up the top of the mermaid and then glue the rest of it down just so she's level with that one cluster of flowers. And there she is. It is cut off, but I'll move it up. And she's just staring in the distance, just enjoying life. And once again, I use the sentiment, "You're amazing." I think it's a good one. The main sentiment says, "It's that heart of gold and stardust soul that makes you beautiful." And I didn't want to use that sentiment, but it has the shell on it. So it was really hard to use it because it was more about stars, but had a seashell on it. So I put it on this card. Okay, so here we go. Here's the 10 cards. Like I said, I totally forgot about this card kit, and and I have my August one, so I got to start working on that one so I don't forget again. But these are the 10 cards that I quickly came up with, and I'm really happy with them. They turned out fun, a lot of retro, interesting ones using my imagination, and this kit came with some really interesting pattern papers that, like for this example, I was able to make 2 cards out of 1 sheet. So that's always fun. I do hope that you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun, and I do hope that has created some inspiration for you. And get out there and just have some crafty, awesome, beautiful fun. And until the next time, take care of yourselves. Have an enjoyable long weekend. At least in Canada, we have a long weekend. And I will catch you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye.